Arrakis, Dune, Desert Planet. In the universe of Frank Herbert Dune, Arrakis holds the reputation as the deadliest world in the Imperium. In this video, I'd like to talk about 5 lethal threats on Arrakis and how you might be able to protect yourself from these dangers if you were in the open desert. Spoiler warning, as I will be discussing a few details which are revealed gradually throughout Frank Herbert's Dune series. Coming in at number 5 is perhaps the most common threat to biological life in any dry environment: exposure and dehydration. With the surface of Arrakis consisting almost exclusively of dry dune deserts, during the daytime, surface temperatures can easily reach 77 degrees Celsius or 170 degrees Fahrenheit, making survival on the surface nearly impossible without protective equipment. For this reason, the major settlements on the planet are located at the North Pole, where the climate is milder, making human habitation more comfortable. Survival experts say that a major factor in one's survival in the desert is to conserve sweat, not water. In harmony with this, the residents of Arrakis rely heavily on still suits, which reduce one's body temperature in the open desert and serve as a water recycling system designed to preserve the body's moisture. In order for a still suit to function properly, however, it needs to be adjusted to fit each person's body measurements to ensure the highest efficiency. Water is precious on Arrakis, and with the constant threat of exposure and dehydration, the Fremen go to great lengths to conserve this resource. During the day, they can be found inside various caves and rocky outcroppings along the weathered mountain ranges that break up the desert sea. They also tend to travel across the desert at night when the temperature drops to a much more tolerable level and to avoid any possible loss of water through evaporation. So, in summary, if you want to avoid death by dehydration and exposure in the open desert of Arrakis, be sure to have a still suit, adjust it to fit for maximum efficiency, travel at night, and if at all possible, find outcroppings or caves to rest in during the day. Coming in at number 4 is the threat of sandstorms. As a desert planet, the sandstorms of Arrakis are often quite fierce and deadly. They typically consist of electrically charged wind, sand, and dust traveling at speeds of up to 700 kilometers per hour. As is brought out early on in Frank Herbert's first novel, these storms can eat flesh off bones and etch the bones to slivers. Anyone caught out in such a storm would be killed in a matter of seconds. The destructive forces of these storms also severely limit the areas in which settlements can be established on the planet. Subsequently, the Fremen Sietches are built deep within the rocky formations of the planet, which provide protection from such weather. The capital city of Arrakis is also protected from these storms by a natural mountainous sheer rock formation called the Shield Wall. If you were to find yourself in the open desert with a sandstorm approaching, your best means of escape would be via Ornithopter or another similar craft commonly used on Arrakis for transport. If you're unable to hitch a ride in one of these vehicles, the next and perhaps only other option would be to take cover in a nearby rocky formation and to seek shelter in the caves within. If you were to escape from the sandstorms of Arrakis into such caves, however, this would present yet another danger. Coming in at number 3 on our list is the threat of death at the hands of the Fremen. Having been molded by this deadly jewel of a planet for thousands of years, the religion and customs of the Fremen have turned their people into a fierce, lethal force, hell-bent on survival. Their lives are centered around maintaining the strength of the tribe, as well as the conservation of water. The Fremen also go to great lengths to maintain secrecy concerning their activities, especially regarding their terraforming initiative, which would mean the end of the supply of the precious spice melange. These are the primary factors which would cause the Fremen to consider you, as an outsider, a danger to their survival, a threat to their secrecy, or a possible hindrance to their long-term agenda. Subsequently, your fate upon encountering the Fremen in the open desert would largely depend on the circumstances and how you are perceived. If you are deemed to be a threat, these warriors will not hesitate to kill you and harvest your body's water. and unless you possess an incredible amount of skill in combat, your chances at surviving such an attack are slim. Even the weakest members of the Fremen are themselves quite formidable. For example, it was noted by the Emperor Shaddam Carino IV that his feared Sardaukar soldiers were almost overwhelmed by a group of Fremen which were composed mostly of women, children, and old men. While it is a rare occurrence, it is possible to befriend these people. However, when examining such cases, each individual who was successful in doing so had something valuable to offer them. Coming in at number 2 on our list is the danger of the spice blow. In the book, this is how the Imperial planetologist Dr. Liet Kynes meets his end after being captured by the Harkonnens and left to die in the desert without a still suit or water. A spice blow occurs as a result of the tremendous pressure that builds deep underground in a wild organic growth called a pre-spice mass. This underground mass consists of water mixed with the excretions of larval sandworms called sand trout. Eventually, after the pressure in this area builds to a certain point, it explodes to the surface of the planet. Liet Kynes' death in this way was largely a result of his inability to escape the area due to his state of heat exhaustion, dehydration, and delirium. In his last moments, as the dust whirlpool engulfed him, he fell down into cool darkness. He noted the sensation of coolness and the moisture as a blessed relief. While an unusual and rare way to die, it makes for perhaps one of the most interesting deaths in Frank Herbert's saga, and given Dr. Kynes' special relationship with the planet, it's perhaps the most fitting way for him to go out. But if you were to find yourself wandering the sands of Arrakis, you'd be wise to listen for the rumbling sound of the spice blow moments before it erupts, as this is perhaps the clearest indicator of its presence. Finally, the number 1 way to meet your maker on Arrakis is death by Shai-Hulud, aka the mighty sandworm. Having been measured at over 400 meters long, these massive beasts roam the desert, using their rows of crystalline teeth to sift the coarse, rock-filled sand for nourishment. Each sandworm patrols an area that is relative to its size and will not hesitate to attack anything encroaching on those boundaries, whether it be another sandworm or a spice harvester. Because of their water content, humans are not a natural food source for the sandworms. However, because its main goal is to protect its territory, they listen for and quickly respond to rhythmic vibrations in the sand and move in to devour anything they perceive as a threat. With their approach being likened to that of a natural disaster, there is little chance of surviving a close encounter with these monsters. Because the sandworms are attracted to rhythmic sounds, in order to escape their notice in the open desert, you must learn how to walk without rhythm, ensuring there is no noticeable pattern to your steps. However, if you did happen to draw the attention of one of these beasts, similar to how you'd escape the threat of a sandstorm, you would either need to secure a seat on an ornithopter or flee to the protection of a nearby rocky formation, which the sandworms cannot traverse. And that brings us to the end of my list of 5 ways to die on Arrakis. Is there a particular threat or danger on Arrakis, either on this list or otherwise, that stands out the most to you? Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. I hope you enjoyed this video. Leave a like if you did, and be sure to subscribe for more Dune and other sci-fi and fantasy news and lore. Thank you all so much for your support, and as always, have a very nerdy day.